Emily's here.
Oh, okay, good. She's good. Thank you. Good. Michael? Good. The December 9th planning board meeting of the city of Panama City is now in order. Please take roll.
Board Member Carroll.
Here.
Board Member Stamps.
Here.
Board Member Barker.
Here.
Board Member Rich.
Here.
Chairman Newbauer.
Here. Are there any changes or deletions to the agenda?
So I want to apologize for the typo. It is Monday, December 9th. Thank you all for being here. I'm happy to see we have a quorum. But other than that, there have been no changes to the agenda. Thank you.
Any announcements or disclosures? All right, see none. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the November 12th planning board meeting?
All motions do it. I'll second.
Motion and second, please take the roll.
Board Member Carroll.
Yeah.
Board Member Stamps.
Yes.
Board Member Barker.
Yes.
Board Member Rich.
Yes.
Chairman Newbauer.
Yes. I'll now read the procedure for the quasi-judicial hearings. Step 1, public hearing announced, introduction of application by staff, ex parte communication disclosure by board members, identification of applicant and affected parties that intend to participate in the hearing. Affected parties that only intend to make a statement may do so at the public participation part of the agenda. An affected party means any person or entity that will suffer an adverse effect to an interest protected or furthered by the LDC, including interests related to health and safety, police and fire protection, service systems, densities or intensities of development, transportation facilities, healthcare facilities, equipment or services, and environmental and natural resources. The alleged adverse interest may be shared in common with other members of the community at large, but must exceed in degree the general interest and community good shared by all persons. Our council will go through swearing witnesses.
Yep, we have two items this evening that are quasi-judicial on the agenda, and those are the first two items, A and B. So if you're here to speak on either one of those items, if you'd stand now and raise your right hand, I'll swear you in. All right, you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you'll give in these matters to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yes, I do. All right, when you come to the podium or come to the microphone on your item, if you will state your name and address for the record and that you have been sworn.
Thank you. We'll start with item A, Orlando.
Item A is case number MDEV 2507. It's a request for a major development. The applicant is requesting to develop a 6-story multifamily development. The owner is Terrell McGee, and the applicant is Anchor Consulting Engineering and Inspection, Inc. It's located at 1604 Chestnut Avenue and 2900 West 16th Street. It's approximately 1.59 acres.
Thank you, Orlando. Any questions for the board for staff? All right, is the applicant present? Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. Emily with Anchor Engineering. Brittany couldn't be here today. I have been sworn in. This development is 6 stories high and it is roughly 69 feet tall. My understanding is that this zoning district, the max is 120 feet, so we are well within those requirements. We were excited to see that staff recommended approval, and we hope that you do the same. So if you have any questions for me, please let me know.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone from the audience here to speak on this matter? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to the board?
Motion to approve. Second.
All right, please take roll.
Board Member Carroll.
Yes.
Board Member Stamps.
Yes.
Board Member Barker.
Yes.
Board Member Rich.
Yes.
Chairman Newbauer.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Item 2.
The second item is case number VROW 2508. It is an application for a vacation of right-of-way. The request is to vacate a portion of the alleyway right-of-way located to the south of East 2nd Plaza, west of Main Avenue, east of Sherman Avenue, and north of East 2nd Court. The portion of the alleyway is approximately 0.023 acres, and the applicant is J. Michael Bell.
Any questions from the board for staff?
I do have one question. That's the only property. None of those property people want to vacate the property.
This is the only application we received for abandonment that I know of.
Do we know what prompted the request?
I do not.
The applicant here?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Mike Bell. I'm the applicant, 212 Sherman Avenue, Panama City, Florida. This alleyway was vacated about 50 years ago, abandoned by the city. At the time, a letter was received that, each landowner on each side of the alley received 4 feet of the alley. It was an 8-foot alley. But at the time, I don't know if it was intended or unintended, the city never actually transferred the property to the individual owners. And I'm not sure if they intended to or not. What I was trying to do is I was just trying to build a garage on the back of my property. And when my architect met with the planning folks, the issue came up that, if you're abutting up to an alleyway, you have a 7-foot setback. So I've got an 8-foot alley and a 7-foot setback, so that would put me 15 feet into my property. And I really don't want to be that far out. So the opposite is, if you approve this, it would become a property line, which was only a 3-foot setback. So I would gain 4 feet of property and 4 feet of setback. So technically an 8-foot advantage off of that. But really the board, I'm speaking for other people who aren't here, but I don't know why you guys wouldn't just consider vacating the entire alley. I only made an application for what borders my property on my side of the alley, but other than just getting the real estate, approved and legally recorded, I don't know why you guys wouldn't consider that. But right now, I can only ask for what I have on my application.
Understood. Thanks.
Any questions about that?
So it looks like 214 already has a similar structure in the back of their property.
Theirs is a temporary structure.
Okay.
Mine will be a permanent structure.
Okay.
That's the difference.
And is that passable at all, or look like
No.
on one side of it there's trees growing?
Yeah,
or what otherwise would
it's
be,
not passable. It's fenced, and everybody has temporary sheds and stuff like that up against it. So it's not really passable at this point.
Thank you.
Sir, did you say you received a letter from the city?
Yes. So, 50 years ago or so, but I don't have a copy of it. I mean, my family's owned this property for 100 years, so we've been there a long time. And my sister actually worked for the city for 35 years, and she saw it recorded in the minutes.
Okay.
When we.
Do you have a year? If it was abandoned, it would have been done by ordinance, and we can go back and look that up. And
I would say it was in the early 70s, right around that time frame. I don't know the exact date.
I was working there at the time, and I saw the letters.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Is anyone else here to speak on this item? See none. Do I have a motion?
make a motion to accept.
Second.
All right. Motion is second. Please take roll.
Board Member Carroll.
Yes.
Board Member Stamps.
Yes.
Board Member Barker.
Yes.
Board Member Rich.
Yes.
Chairman Newbauer.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thanks. And if it's already there, we'll find it.
I was going to say, if Mike, can we have maybe some title work done on this?
We might be able to, it sounds to me like maybe the ordinance or something just didn't get recorded is what it sounds like. But looking at just on the property appraiser, it appears that folks have kind of deemed that to already have been done. You won't actually get a deed from the city. What you'll get is just the recorded ordinance of vacation of the right of way or the abandonment of it. And then that does what you were talking about. It divides it down the center line and either side gets it. So it may be that there's just something in the record that maybe we need to record 50 years later.
Yeah.
That would be perfect.
Yeah.
Do that. But I mean, what you're talking about today, you're talking about just my application, right? You're not talking about the whole alley.
No, sir. It should. We would have to give notice. But I've just, as we've gone back and look at it again, we review these as staff before we come in here. We were curious why some people seem to have driveways going through it or sheds built in the middle of it, and it may be that they've found that document. But we'll go back and look at it. And either way, it looks like the board just approved it 5-0. So I suspect the city commission will follow suit on that particular one. So.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
So if we do find that ordinance from previously, would we then need to take any additional action for the other owners here? Or
No, sir.
Affect that way?
Just based on what he was, like I said, we were, as staff, we kind of wondered out loud, why is everybody doing that? Why didn't everybody ask for it? So it may be that it has been recorded in other, you said you've owned this property for 100 years?
Yes.
So they've not had to do any title work on it in a long time. Their neighbors probably have, and they probably have found that ordinance somewhere, and it's already been recognized by them that are their title companies that they have that middle piece. And so we'll just clear that up. So that was a long way of saying it may already be abandoned, Mr. Rich.
Thank you. All right. Item C, Michael.
All right. The main event. We even got the news out here. Okay. So a little bit of background. In September, city staff was directed by the city commission to research and provide recommendations on RV and boat storage requirements for residential properties. At that time, there was a code enforcement case involving the parking and storage of an RV in a driveway of a residence in the north side area of the city. We kind of looked back at the last couple years to see, if this is a frequent problem, how often does it come up, and we did find that over the last 2 years there were about 30 cases that involved RVs, but not all those were just the location or where the property owner parked the RV. That was anything dealing with an RV, like if someone was living in an RV. Just anything involving an RV. There are about 30 code enforcement cases over the last 2 years, if that gives you maybe some idea of how often this comes up. But anyways, the commission had asked us to do some research and come back with some, maybe a proposed amendment. But as far as background goes, so the current requirement for RV and boat trailers is found in section 105-11 of the Unified Land Development Code. And it states, a quote, recreational vehicles or boats may not be stored in the front yard or front parking area of any residence unless parked within a carport, garage, or other permanent shelter, or behind approved fencing which shields the vehicle or boat from view. Now, while researching this matter, we found that most all nearby local governments regulate boat and RV storage in some manner, but it kind of varies across the board in how. For instance, the city of Lynn Haven only allows RVs to be parked in the backyard of a residence. The city of Callaway allows an RV to be parked on the side or rear yards. And they have, in addition, they have to be screened from view from the side or rear yard. Callaway does allow RVs in the front yard on a temporary basis for the purposes of loading or unloading the RV, or if anybody is visiting a residence, and they're visiting with an RV, they can temporarily park in the front yard. The city of Pensacola provides that RVs and boat trailers are considered or defined as, quote, major recreational equipment. And it kind of gives this definition of what a major recreational equipment is. It would include like jet skis on trailers, campers, other types of trailers. And it does allow these major recreational equipment in the front of a residence under certain conditions. For instance, an RV can be parked in front of a residence, but it has to be within a driveway, and no portion of the RV shall be parked in the right-of-way or encroach or extend out into the right-of-way. The RV may not be parked in the visibility triangle, and it can only be parked perpendicular to the front lot line. The RV must be parked within 15 feet of either side lot line, and only one side of the property or the other, but not both sides of the property. The RV cannot be used for living accommodations and shall not be connected to any city utilities. The RV or trailer must be maintained in an operable condition and properly licensed. Also in front of you are some written comments that we've received from the public. There are some comments that maybe y'all want to consider, such as further defining the site visibility triangle. Our code does reference visibility triangle in chapter 109, and it basically says that it's from an intersection, it's 15 feet in depth by 100 feet long. Nothing in that 15 by 100 area can block the sight distance of a motorist. We've also printed out a more detailed definition of visibility triangle that maybe I would like to consider adding to the code as maybe a definition. You may also want to consider a provision that would limit one major recreational equipment in the front yard. Another suggestion would be to treat RVs and boat trailers separately. I noticed there are some local codes that do not treat RVs and boats the same. But in this case, or what's being proposed from y'all, does basically treat them the same, as it lumps them all in as major recreational equipment. The proposed text amendment in your agenda packet is based off the RV and boat storage requirements of the City of Pensacola. I think I mentioned that. The board can accept this amendment as is, make further changes to the amendment, or recommend that the commission make no changes at all. As requested by the City Commission, I'm asking the board to receive public comment tonight, and then provide the commission with a proposed text amendment, or a recommendation on a proposed text amendment. And I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Michael, how do disaster situations affect the proposed code that you've come up with?
As it relates to RVs, there is a provision in the code that during a declared emergency, the city may issue like temporary permits for RVs, for living accommodations, but that's only in a declared emergency. But otherwise, they wouldn't have an effect on this parking or storage of an RV.
So I see some references to the driveway, which obviously would be able to be parked on in this. I also see what's called the front yard, with the exception of the visibility triangle. Does that mean anybody could park a vehicle perpendicular in the yard of a?
No, it would have to be in the driveway.
So it is limited to the driveway, not
Yeah.
the grassy area of the yard.
Yeah, that's the way I interpret it. We can certainly further clarify that. That's a good.
Yeah, because it says the front yard except in the required visibility triangle, but only perpendicular to the lot line. So I think if the intent is to be the front yard driveway.
Yeah, well,
I would make that
distinction
on that one, because it references the driveway in a sub-bullet 2. But in side yards and rear yards, it could be in the grassy area. Is that correct?
No, so it says residential requirements, parking or storage of major recreational equipment on residential premise shall be allowed subject to the following conditions. May be parked or stored in permanent equipment enclosures such as carports or garages, or the driveway of the owner's residence, but not in any portion of the public right-of-way. Then it says the rear yard, And then front yard except the required visibility. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think it's meant to be limited to the driveway is the way I understood it. Pensacola does it.
How is driveway defined? 'Cause-
Yeah, I was gonna ask if that included any material, certain materials or,
Yeah,
Well, I mean, some people not every driveway's paved, so.
Yeah.
well, okay, if it's concrete versus gravel or whatever, so.
Non-grass surface. I don't know.
Our land development code currently defines a driveway as a private roadway located on a parcel or lot used for vehicle access. And that's it. That might be something we want to add to that definition. But that's all it says. Private roadway located on a parcel or lot used for vehicle access.
So it don't have to be concrete right now or paved.
Well, it doesn't say, does it?
No, well, for new commercial development are required to pave, but for residents, we don't have a specific requirement for residents to have a paved driveway. So it could be gravel.
I mean, sometimes it's just
Sometimes
Or
it's
dirt.
a lot of ways in the code that are not either.
Okay, let me ask one other question. On the boats, are they in a specific size that you can?
No, it doesn't specify a size. It just says that, it can't be parked. Like if it's so long that it extends out into the road right of way, that's not allowed. And then again, it can't, let's see, front yard except in the required visibility triangle, but only perpendicular to front line. Yeah, it just can't be so long that it extends out into the road right of way.
Is there an intent to have any limitation to the number of applicable vehicles or boats or whatever?
Yeah, and that's a good point, and that was one of the comments that we received later on, or earlier today, is that should the board feel so inclined, is maybe specify that this is only limited to one RV or one boat trailer in the front. Because obviously, unfortunately, there are those that will abuse whatever requirements. I mean, there's people that abuse the current requirements that we have, and we don't want to set up a situation where someone feels empowered to park.
Have like 3 or 4 vehicles
Exactly.
and boats out there. No, I'm with you. I do think it probably needs some clarification on that.
Yeah.
Any other questions for staff before we open it up for public comment? All right, is anyone in the audience here to speak on this? Okay.
Tim Fontaine, 305 Bunkers Cove Road, Panama City, Florida, 32401. I sent earlier today to staff my comments and I made comments printed so I could keep my own head straight. We'll skip the first bullet. I think that one's probably already been taken care of, which was a spelling issue. The second one, after reviewing the paperwork the attachment that was sent out with this, and reviewing Callaway where they had the 7-day temporary use. So the city has 3 choices to make, or 3 options that have been presented with staff. And even if we stay with the same one we've got right now, which is none allowed in the front, we probably should at least consider the temporary, because everybody's got a cousin Eddie that wants to come visit. Or at least I do.
Well, keep the in-laws at bay. So,
the third bullet, when it's talking about parking major equipment on a vacant lot, we actually cross over to a different code, section 105-8, outdoor storage. And the very first bullet on that is outdoor storage is prohibited on vacant property in all zoning districts. And it doesn't make sense to relax our highest zoned R1 when you still can't store vacant or equipment on a vacant property on heavy industrial zoning. So on that one, I would maintain that we should keep our vacant lots vacant instead of using them for a storage facility. Item 3, with that visibility triangle, I had to look through the code and find that one figure that's in the code that Michael was talking about. And if we're going to do this as part of the code, we should have that triangle figured for a residential lot, so it's easy to figure out what we can do with that. And then on the, if we're going to allow storage on the front or the side yard of a property, we should limit it to one piece, whether it's an RV, a boat, a dune buggy on a trailer, a utility trailer, or whatever it's going to be, according to the descriptions that were sent with the major equipment that was presented. That's all I got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
David Smith, 1070 East Caroline Boulevard, Panama City, Florida, 32401. First, I want to thank the board for their service, because it's a volunteer board, and I know you give up time from your businesses and your families to be here, and I appreciate that. Secondly, I oppose this change. That currently we have an ordinance that says no RVs in the front yard, no boats in the front yard. Why would we relax that? It got blurred a little bit during the hurricane. People need to be in their RV so they can get their homes repaired. But the hurricane's 6 years over. And, oh, Mr. Fuller, of those 30 complaints, 3 I made. 10th Street, 11th Street, and 10th Court, 11th Street, and Ferry. So you can see I am quite opposed to having RVs and boats in the front yard, especially when they don't after the hurricane's over. And, you know, as a result of the hurricane, the city contracted with Dover Coal. We spent millions of dollars with Dover Coal to come up with a master plan. And they gave us a great plan, a plan that said, hey, you could be the premier city in the Panhandle. You could be better than all the rest, better than Destin, better than Pensacola, better than Callaway, better than Lynn Haven, if you follow this plan. Nowhere in that plan does it say park a boat in your front yard, park an RV in your front yard. No, not at all. You look at other Dover Coal cities, they're premier cities, Ocean Springs, Mississippi, Thomasville, Georgia. You won't see a boat in the front yard or RV. No. So we got a choice. We can strive to be the premier city in the Panhandle, or we can look like any other rural county in the Florida Panhandle and have boats and RVs parked helter-skelter. Thank you for considering this.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else wish to speak on this item?
Well, there's a gentleman over there that's getting up.
Mary Sitman, 516 Bunkers Cove Road. I would ask that you include the Pensacola provision that allows parking in an adjacent vacant lot when it's, adjacent to or across the street under common ownership for RVs. I'll just be straight up. We keep our RV in our lot. We live on the water, so our lot across the street is almost like our backyard. If you've been by, we maintain a garden. We keep it pretty nice, and we keep the RV sheltered as best we can, but we do store it there. And we live in the Cove, and the Cove has boats, trailers, 10 cars parked in the front yard. We still think we're a premier city, and we still love it. We're not an HOA, and we hope that you'll allow some flexibility. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
I think provision 3 does allow, right, on that item. Provision 3.
Yes, currently
allowing on a vacant adjacent lot by the same ownership.
Bob Zales II, 1906 Tyndall Drive. Y'all got my book that I sent y'all by email. This ordinance, in my mind, is the classic example of cafeteria style management, right? You create a regulation or rule, whatever, you pick and choose how you're going to enforce it. Somebody complains, you enforce it. Nobody says anything at all, it sits out there. It goes far more than recreational vehicles in front yards. Look at your waterfront. It talks about waterfront, where people have waterfront. Get out on your boat, travel the waterfront in Bay County. You're gonna see a lot of places, a lot of boat, docks and things out there that don't comply with that ordinance. You need to be real careful about how you craft whatever recommendation you make. You don't want to get too detailed here. The amendment that whoever produced it, I think, is pretty good. I think it covers pretty much the major concerns here. Number one, the questions that I've asked for 2 or 3 months now still haven't been answered. We're looking at 2 years of data, 22 to 24. This thing was created in 2004. Nobody knows why. They don't know what the problem was. The problem that existed at the time hasn't been identified to what the ordinance was needed for. So you've got this thing's been floating around all these years that pretty much nobody knew existed until just recently. So if you do what is in that amendment, use some good common sense and let things lie where they are, I think it will be pretty good. I'm not interested in Panama City becoming a premier city in the state of Florida about any kind of regulatory impacts of people. Number one, when you create regulations, you impact people, either financially, socially, or some kind of way. You need to consider all that whenever you're crafting these requirements. So, thank you.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Eric Wimberly, 2925 Briarcliff. I'm opposed to change. I've had a complaint against me. I had to move my RV behind the fence, constructed it, did like I was told. It actually makes the neighborhood look better. If you do change, all I ask is in the visibility triangle, take into effect of the sidewalks. People backing in and out of their yards. They have to, kids travel the sidewalks, have to be able to be seen at all times. And maybe not in the setback of a property. Driveway setbacks, I think in Panama City, are 3 feet. Maybe not in that side. Even some people have their driveways built in the setback, but the RVs, when the slides are open, they're in the neighbor's yard. That type of, maybe the 3 foot setback is in that rule. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Russell Reynolds, 2921 Briarcliff Road. I am the one that brought this action forward. I am the one that was complained on. I have my RV in my front driveway. I've complied. I've got a sign out in front of my front yard right now, where we have another meeting on the 19th. My RV is insured. My RV is registered. My RV is operable. It's a travel trailer. I use it quite frequently. It does not affect anybody. It does not hinder the neighborhood. Panama City is a premier city, but people in a premier city still own RVs and boats. I'm asking you to pass this ordinance, allowing us to have our property that we pay for. I paid a lot of taxes on my home. And now with my RV, I'm having to store it at a storage facility. I'm paying additional insurance. I'm paying additional taxes on it. I'm paying additional monies out that I should not have to pay for when I'm already paying for that to be able to have it at my property. My RV is on a concrete pad. It does not affect anybody. It does not adhere to the sidewalk. It does not prevent anybody from doing any everyday activity that would do if my RV was not there. I'm asking you to pass this and put in your say-so. It must be insured. It must be registered. Automobiles are that way. Treat it as an automobile. It has to be operable. I don't want an eyesore, but mine is not an eyesore, and none of the ones I see around. If you drive into any neighborhood, you're going to see RVs and you're going to see boats. And if you do not pass this, and if you do say that people are not allowed to have it, how are you going to enforce it? There's only a certain amount of code enforcement people, and there's thousands of RVs and boats. You're going to create a havoc that you're not going to be able to handle. Any questions? I'll take them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any additional comments? Thank you. Discussion from the board?
Michael, are you asking for us to vote on this or to make recommendations for this?
Well, so couple options. One, if you're comfortable with what's in front of you, and you have some minor adjustments to make, we can make those adjustments before we bring it to the city commission, and include your recommendation. If you want to make some pretty substantial changes to what's been presented to you, I would probably ask that we make those further amendments and bring this back to y'all for another consideration to make sure it's what you're comfortable with before we take it to the city commission. Or if you don't want us to do anything at all, I guess that's the last option in my mind that y'all could make.
I mean, I do feel like there are some things that, if it's going to go forward, that need to be incorporated into it that are clarifications for sure, and things that aren't specified in it. So I'm more comfortable with tabling it for next month and letting us work on it a little bit more. So.
You want to just go through those real quick
Yeah, I mean, we talked about defining the visibility triangle a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about determining whether or not there's a limitation of vehicles, of boats, RVs, and or one or the other, or what that equates to. I don't know if we want to include specifics on what consists of a driveway and acceptable materials. We talked about the parking across the street stuff that Mary had mentioned. There's just some considerations there. I don't know if you guys have anything else, but those were things that I made a note on that I'd like to see some clarification on.
Yeah, and I've made a note of all those points. So we will go back and we'll provide further definition for the visibility in triangle, and the driveway.
Yeah, on the limitation piece of that, obviously I think it makes sense to limit it to one in the front yard or / driveway. But I don't, if it's behind a fence and
But whether that's one RV plus one boat, or just one of any of those type of things, or jet skis, you don't want somebody with a RV, a boat, a jet ski, and a kayak sitting in the front yard, right? But we got to make sure if we're going to implement that, it's clear of what's acceptable.
Yeah, I was kind of making the point that if it's in the rear side yard, it shouldn't count. Yeah, it's behind a fence and carport.
Yep.
But maybe limit to the one vehicle of any kind.
Of any kind.
Driveway.
Yeah.
Because we do, is the definition of major recreational vehicle in here?
Yes, that is the one term that we have defined and request adding to our land development code.
Chapter 116. So travel trailers, camping trailers, truck campers, motorhomes, boats, boat trailers, race cars, utility trailers, dune buggies, and similar recreational equipment.
Maybe we can add jet skis to that too.
Let me ask you, Mike, though, I mean, you've said recreational vehicle, and there's some people that have a tractor and they use it for recreational purposes, and that might be their recreational vehicle. So I think, we've got to make sure that, we're not going to put work equipment and stuff like that. I'm assuming that's already covered somewhere.
I think, well, we'll make sure that distinction is made. Yeah.
And when you say one or two, you're saying like having one in the front yard and allowing one in the side yard too?
In the rear yard, I think if it's
the rear yard or
they
side
can have
yard?
as many as they want, in my opinion. But in the front yard, I think we should limit it.
No, I think it would be limited. Yeah, absolutely.
And I know you mentioned it, but as far as the disaster situation goes, that's a concern that I have of when we get into a disaster situation, which is imminent at some point. I think we want to have some ideas to, what happens with these rules relative to that. I'd maybe like to learn a little bit more about how that's going to work.
Okay.
Prior to next time.
Yeah. Okay.
During Hurricane Michael, the city commission basically made some resolutions and some directions, I guess I'll say, too, regarding the ability to allow folks to be in there. They did. They just suspended it and allowed it to be and they've adopted that resolution a couple of times over the course
Just extending it out based on how long people need it for.
Yes. Okay. So that folks could, live in their RVs during that, while they were doing their construction, those kind of things.
Does that same thing apply if somebody's house burns down or something like that? Is that applicable in that situation?
It is not, because that was a blanket
Okay.
ordinance, but, if you, I suppose you, if you want to get into that, we can begin to try to craft some of that kind of language, but.
Okay, just something to think about, I think.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's good. The house burning down, it could be a temporary. And what Tim brought up about I think we do need a temporary where somebody can come visit.
Well,
Or grandmama, whatever. I think it's just maybe 7 day or whatever. Just put a time limit on it. Somebody come and visit you that has a motorhome or something.
Well, I think with the current ordinance, anybody could pull in your driveway, or with the new recommended ordinance, somebody could pull in your driveway and park there for as long as they
Is
want.
that right on that new?
As long as you have one. Now, if you had two friends and family come in and you're parked there for a long time,
That could be problematic.
yeah. But
Okay.
I think it allows for one,
Enforcement catches up.
one in the driveway if you have a visitor.
Well, there's another one that vacant lots adjacent to each other, to the property owner. They can't, I think it was, they can't park anything on a vacant lot that's next to it. And I was just wondering if you
That's-
fence that in.
It's carved out. Major, it can be parked in vacant. It's included in here that you can park in an adjacent lot if it's owned by the same entity.
I thought it had, let's see, I understood something.
The language in front of
Number
you
3.
says,
It says except where it is, it's vacant joint lot on same ownership.
Okay.
So that covers.
did you find it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
it's,
the second sentence in
three.
number 3.
Three. Okay.
It carves out the exception for if it's the same ownership as the adjacent.
Okay, I got one other thing. He made a good point about you can't have cars in the yard if they don't have tags on them. So are recreational vehicles required to be insured to be in compliance?
Yeah, the proposed language currently states that it must be maintained in an operable condition and must be properly licensed in accordance with all laws of the state. We could probably add, if y'all want, insured.
I don't know.
Well, I think that's up to the
Well,
That's a
You
personal
don't
decision.
have to insure a
It's,
boat, but.
you know,
Okay.
probably most
Licensed.
I think I have insurance
anyway, so.
Yeah, not on a
Yeah.
boat.
On some kind of recreational vehicle, you have to insure it to get a tag, right?
Oh,
The RV, yeah, but I don't think a
But
boat needs
this could be a
insurance,
trailer.
so.
Somebody might not have insurance on a
Right.
utility trailer.
I make a motion that we give the staff recommendations that we've had, let them recarve it a little bit, and then bring it back to the planning board next planning meeting, and table it for right now, and proceed on with it. I mean, we need to work on it, but I think it needs to be tweaked.
Yep.
I second the motion.
Yep.
Motion is second. Please take roll.
Member Carroll,
Yes.
Board Member Stamps,
Yes.
Board Member Barker,
Yes.
Board Member Rich,
Yes.
Chairman Newbauer.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. All right. Now open up the meeting to our audience participation. Does anybody in the audience wish to participate?
Who seconded?
I second.
You did, okay.
David Smith, 1070 East Caroline Boulevard, 32401. At the last meeting, this board approved a development order for Bayview and Beck Avenue. And I have a question for the city attorneys. And I don't expect an immediate answer, but please consider that on November 12th, a public hearing was held, and yet members of the public were turned away. Okay? My wife and two of her friends were among those who were turned away. So the question I have is, can a public hearing be held and when the public is not permitted to attend? I think a new hearing is in order and in a bigger venue that can adequately accommodate all of those who want to attend. Thank you for considering this.
Me to respond to that now,
It's
or?
up to you.
Yeah. Apparently they walked away too soon.
No.
Apparently they walked away too soon because we did actually stop. I went out and checked to make sure that there was anybody out there. We actually had the fire chief come down who said that the room was okay to be beyond the capacity, wherever it is on the board there, because he was here with Fire Watch, and we had a police officer here to make sure that we had crowd control. And because I was very sensitive to the fact that we needed to have folks here. So they must have just left too soon.
We did the check at 4 o'clock. We did the check, so that's how it was handled. So
Yeah.
yes. All right. Any else? Any other? All right. Meeting is adjourned.